K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we're expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org. The leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
For our own cause, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religion as you pray to Jesus Christ.
All right, folks. Well, it's just a couple minutes past the hour here in beautiful downtown Oklahoma City. I am Rick Robinson, and this is America Off the Rails. Now, tonight, I do have a returning, kind of becoming a regular guest, Mr. Patrick Fornari, author of Commoner Sense. We're going to talk about one of his recent columns and also the debate, or as I like to call it, the debacle, but we'll get into that later. Before we actually get into the meat of the show, just want to take a moment to give a shout-out to the affiliates. Again, as a reminder, this show can be heard every Monday through Friday right here on our home network, the Spark Radio Network, carried by K98 Talk, both.com and .org. At 6 p.m. Central, that's 7 Eastern. Then, of course, we have Leading Edge Radio Network, where the show can be heard every Monday through Friday at 7 in the morning Central, 8 Eastern. Then we have SHR Media, which carries us on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 11 Eastern. And then we have AMFM247.com, where the show is heard every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 Eastern. And then finally, last but not least, actually one of my favorite ones because they're really big in the internet radio world, is Red State Talk Radio, where you can hear this show every Sunday morning at 5 a.m., 6 Eastern. So if you get up early on a Sunday, make sure you turn on the show. Just saying. All right, so at this point, we're going to go ahead and take a really quick break, pay a couple more bills, and when I come back, we'll have Patrick on the air with us, and we will discuss the debate and more. We will be right back with you here in just a couple minutes. All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place. Welcome to the...
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you...
Hey folks, Slickery Trigger here. I'd like to take a minute to tell you about Rebel Road Tactical. As a defensive pistol instructor, I've had the opportunity to observe many different holster designs and configurations. And one thing is clear. Many of my students won't carry a pistol. Or worse, they'll carry one without a holster at all. Holster designers aren't making holsters for normal people. It seems that most holsters are either an expensive piece of gear designed for Rambo or a piece that doesn't fit or function the way real people need it to fit and function. So, like any good Texan, I decided to learn to form kydex and design one myself, one that would fit the needs of average people. The result is the Rebel Road Tactical CRT modular. The CRT stands for Carry, Range, and Training. Its thin and lightweight curved design minimizes printing and is adjustable to fit just right for superior comfort and function. Check us out after the show at rebelroadconcealed.blogspot.com.
We will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period. If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those on the take. Attorney General's lying even while...
It's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. You're listening to America Off the Rails with your host, Rick Robinson.
That's right, folks. This is Rick Robinson. Again, this is America Off the Rails, and I am joined by Mr. Patrick Fornari, author of Commoner Sense. Good evening, Patrick. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Rick. How are you?
If I was doing any better, it would probably be illegal. I'm just saying.
Well, we'll just have to keep an eye on you then.
Well, you know, I'm not doing quite as good as my buddy JD, who's another host on the station over here. He's out in California rubbing elbows with, like, can't think of his name all of a sudden. Michael Loftus, a conservative comedian, has actually been there for a taping of the show. We have a really big surprise announcement that I'm going to let him make when he gets back. So, no, I'm not doing as good as I could be, because I could be that guy who's been, like, hanging out in the Beverly Hills suite for the last 2 nights and sending me pictures. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Bubba. I know you're listening right now. I didn't appreciate that. It hurt my feelings. No, I'm just playing. All right. But yeah, so I mean, all right. Well, overall, we're doing pretty well. I'm a little concerned about the fact that the media circus really hasn't settled down any, otherwise known as the debate, but we'll get to that in a second. First impressions, who do you think did the best last night and why?
Well, I think the person that helped themselves the most was obviously Carly Fiorina. Okay, but the other candidates also did step up to a degree, and they finally got some national TV exposure with a lot of eyeballs on them that they haven't been able to get because obviously Donald Trump has taken up a lot of the media time across the board, no matter what stations you watch or what you read or what social media you're on. So I think they were anxious to try to get their message out. But the format of the debate was really disappointing to me. I would never want to watch that again. I watched every second of that 3 hours, and as far as the overall debate goes, I really, really didn't like it, Rick.
You know, I didn't much care for it either. The biggest thing is, first of all, apparently nobody knew it was going to be 3 hours long till at least a quarter of the way through the first hour. Because even when I looked it up in the guide, it didn't say that it was going to be 3 hours long. At least, unless I missed it. And then it seemed like it actually went on for about 3.5 hours.
Well, the thing is that CNN, you know, with the realization that they could jack their media prices up from $5,000 for a spot, I believe it was a 30-second or 1 minute spot, to $200,000. Some genius accountant obviously said, hey, you know, if the debate's longer, we'll make more money. And I think that's what happened.
Well, I mean, yeah, probably. I think my biggest disappointment, though, our biggest disappointment overall, was I do remember a certain someone mentioning that if CNN refused to donate all of their profits from the debate to charity, that he wouldn't be there. I was kind of honestly hoping he would have kept his word, but that's a story for another time, I guess.
Well, I don't know if that was written in stone. I think that the idea of that sentiment was to get the sentiment out there. I have a feeling that a lot of what we and people in the media perceive as slights or slips by Mr. Trump are actually very calculated and tactical. And if you remember in the first debate, Rand Paul came out and attacked Mr. Trump immediately. And last night, Trump didn't waste any time cutting Rand Paul off at the knees. He said, I think he just figured in his own mind, I'll take care of this guy down at the end that's basically going to be heckling me. And I think it was effective. So you can say, gosh, that's out of line. That's not good. The debate format is not Donald Trump's strong point. His strong point is campaigning and talking to people. That's where he derives his energy from. And having to stand there for 3 hours and answer, especially the questions, the type of thing that Jake Tapper was doing, where the whole idea was just to pit everybody against Trump or each other or other candidates. This person said that person said this. It was really weak. We didn't get to the issues. And if you think about it, Trump actually held in there pretty good when you have the other 10 people, as well as the media and the people that are moderating the debate, basically all taking swipes at you. He took a lot of blows, and I think he did as well as anybody could expect to do, even a so-called professional politician, which he's unfortunately, I think, becoming. I don't know if that's actually going to help him. He's actually getting the hang of this game.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. My biggest thing, I think, and this is going to sound a little crappy, but my biggest thing with Donald Trump has become the fact that, I know it's because a lot of it is because he's constantly under attack, but we still never really get anything that's too specific from him. And the other reason that I'm really starting to have issues with him overall really doesn't have anything to do with him, but more his blind followers. I have hosts on this station that are under attack every single day for just trying to point out that, you know, we would probably be okay with Trump if we could find out what some of his positions actually were without it becoming the Nike slogan. Because if somebody honestly asks him a question, that's kind of what it turns into. Well, it's easy. You just do it. That's great, but that doesn't tell anybody how you actually plan on doing anything. And don't get me wrong, if right now Donald Trump was sitting where you are, I would be as fair and as balanced with him as I could be. But I don't know. I don't like the flavor of the overall campaign and the distraction that he is actually becoming, in my opinion, because he still really isn't telling anybody what he's going to do or how he's going to do it, other than he's just going to do it. But that's just me.
Well, the paradigm has changed, and we see the evidence of this, whether it's with conservative commentators or many people have become, fortunately, I think it's a good thing. It's the reason I wrote my book, Common Sense. The idea was to describe the the past, the present, and the possible future of America, and as the working person's guide to America. And I probably read millions of words to come to the conclusions I came to in the book. And the anecdotes I use are true, and the history that I referenced to is true, and the possibilities for the future are true. But the paradigm has shifted in the political realm, in that all the established pundits and the people that run the Washington show, don't know what to do with Trump. And I think that it kind of slipped by everybody last night when he was saying, well, we have people that know everything now, and it's not working. I mean, we have a president, Barack Obama, who pronounces Pakistan, and you have millions of people that think that makes him intelligent and somehow know what he's talking about. He can know everything about the Middle East. All his experts can know everything about the Middle East. All these generals that he had that did know everything about the Middle East were all fired by him. So the people that are in the know, that know all the dynamics and the big moving parts that I always talk to you about, they're not effective. And people basically see Trump as possibly being effective. And when he says, I'll get along with Putin, and everybody criticizes him for not being specific, he is not so stupid as to stand there and say, I'm going to hammer that guy. Because Trump thinks he might actually win. And he's not going to put himself into that position for the future. He also said last night, if Putin acts up, he'll have to do something else. He'll have to change course. So I think that people have confidence in him that he can do that. I don't know if that's true. I can't be a rabid supporter, but I also can't go into this just completely, insane hatred for him as for not being a true conservative. He's not. Things have changed. We might need a transitional candidate rather than a transformational one. And that's the role that he might play. He might move us closer to conservatism by addressing the 4 or 5 big issues that he's been talking about that appeal to conservatives, no matter how conservative they are. Those are 4 or 5 things that they're really worried about.
No, and like I said, my biggest thing isn't necessarily with Trump himself. It's the reaction of, and I'm not talking like you and me who are like, because, I've already told you, if he gets the nomination, he's got my vote. It's that simple. But this is the time when we are supposed to rally around our particular person that we think should get there, and honestly, I still don't have one, and say this is who I'm for and this is why. But the thing with the Trump supporters is, as soon as, and you can actually go back through my timeline and see proof of this because I haven't deleted any of it. I was in a 3-hour conversation with someone yesterday who had become a pretty avid listener of the station, not just my show, but pretty much all of them, and basically said, you know what, I'm done, I'm turning it off because you won't tell your people to stop saying bad things about Donald Trump. And I said, look, how can you tell me that you're a conservative and then tell me that you have a problem with something that somebody else is saying? That's the whole point of free speech. Fine, if you don't like it, turn it off. But don't come to me and say I should be censoring my people because you don't like the fact that some of the hosts that I have on this station are very avidly against Donald Trump for the same things that I'm pointing out. Because when you ask him a question, he either dodges it for the most part, or he'll give you a pat answer, and half the time it sounds like the Nike slogan from the 80s. Those are legitimate concerns. People should be allowed to voice those. And I don't know. Half my staff, if they decide that if Donald gets the nomination, for all I know, they may vote for the Democrat for the first time ever. But I'm not going to tell them what to say and how to say it. That's not how we run things here, and it's never going to be how we run things here. And I think that's my biggest thing right now. Is the whole thing has been colored for me because I'm standing up for free speech, and everybody else is like, you shouldn't let your people talk bad about Donald Trump. Really? First of all, we all do this on basically a volunteer basis for right now, so I'm not going to tell anybody what they have to say, when they have to say it, or how they're going to say it. Second of all, even if I do start paying them, I'm not ever going to say you have to do things exactly the way I want them done or you're going to have to leave. That's why everybody's coming here to do the shows with me now anyway, because I support them and I let them be themselves. That's not going to change. If that means nobody wants to listen to us anymore, okay, fine, whatever. But I'm just tired of being attacked because we actually allow people to have opinions, and I don't try to put everybody into an echo chamber. And it's become more and more prominent lately, because as soon as anybody says one thing negative about Donald Trump, I get like I've got emails I haven't even gotten to yet that are just like, I cannot believe you let this person say this about Donald Trump. Okay.
Well, that's the other. The populism coin has two sides. Okay, we saw Barack Obama's side, who's basically somebody that's a saboteur that's out to destroy America, in my opinion. He gets worse all the time. Right in the middle of he's right in the middle of a left-wing love fest with himself right now. Now Trump is the other side of it.
That sounds dirty.
The people that want America to recover are saying, well, maybe we need to take a more pragmatic approach, because even though he's not an ultra-conservative, strengthening the military, taking care of the vets, improving the economy, things like that, safety, immigration, things that we're worried about, we feel that he can negotiate through and take care of. After all, as everybody's been saying, we have the three candidates on top that are outsiders. So that's a clear message from a lot of base voters right now that they don't want the traditional candidate. I love what Bobby Jindal said. I've always liked Bobby Jindal. I love what he had to say in the debate yesterday, that if the GOP party isn't going to work, let's replace it with something. That's exactly what I wrote in Commoner Sense. And, Lindsey Graham, he can leave D.C. anytime and take his buddy McCain with him. I agree with Jindal. It's time to clear these guys out. And Lindsey Graham is so frustrated with Ted Cruz and Bobby Jindal and all that. Well, they're expressing a lot of the wishes of the people. And, I'm cursed, Rick, with knowing history and having written the book that I wrote that accurately outlines what the idea of America is, as I always say to you. And there's a lot of people that think that Donald Trump is a product of America and also a product of what is a failed GOP party. And they're looking at things right now and saying, in the back of their head, there is still a chance we could somehow lose it. The GOP will blow it. And some people think it's Trump that will blow it, and other people think that if he doesn't get the nomination, we'll blow it. So that's why you're seeing kind of this divide and this type of populism, because those feelings are so raw and deep. Now, I predict over the next few months, some of that will smooth out a little bit. Trump might go away, and somebody like Cruz, who is really, really probably my favorite candidate, certainly from the establishment part of the GOP, might sail through. And we'll owe Donald Trump a little bit a debt of gratitude for plowing the road for him.
It's interesting that you bring up Cruz. My wife cannot stand Cruz. I don't know what it is.
A lot of people can't. Well, there you go. A lot of people can't, but your wife has free speech too, obviously.
Well, yeah, I know, but it was funny because she was watching some of the debate with me last night when we took our between shows break, because we had a post-debate wrap-up with one of the other hosts who decided to move their show later. And it's like anytime he started talking, she's like, and she'd be like in the middle of like reading a story or something on her phone because she'd get bored with it, and he would start talking and she would set her phone down for a second. She'd be like, I don't know what it is about that guy, but anytime he starts talking, I start picturing, her exact words were, I start picturing the guy who sold us that truck back in 2002, which that was not a good experience for us. So the fact that she equates him to that, I'm just like, well, I never really thought about it, but I guess I could kind of see your point. And she doesn't like Christie either. She says there's something about that guy. He's too polished. Well, my wife is a Trump supporter, by the way, so we kind of get into it a little bit.
Right. Okay. That's all well and good. Chris Christie, I saw him in 3 interviews before this debate, and he did really well. But that's kind of the Lindsey Graham thing. They'll stand there and tell you what you want to hear, and then they'll do the opposite. I don't want Christie or Kasich or a number of these other people anywhere near the White House. And if you think, well, but gee, you would vote for Trump if he was in there. As I told you before, I don't want Bush to get the nomination because I don't want to be forced to vote for him. I want to be pure of heart. I want to be that conservative that has all the integrity and this and that and the other thing. But here's the thing, Rick. We kind of have a bit of an emergency. And the people that equate this to a strongman taking over a South American country or something have no idea what they're talking about. Those situations, those analogies, those occur usually in places that have had successive revolutions in short times in socialist or communist countries, okay? That isn't where America is at. And if I had it my way, this is what politics is going to be, Ted Cruz would be in there because he's a constitutional conservative, and everybody in America would love it, and the country would do great. But the fact of the matter is that a lot of the people we've sent up there, they're as well-schooled as Cruz, or seemingly well-schooled as Cruz, haven't gotten the job done. So that's what I mean about a transitional candidate, not transformational, transitional. So let's say that let's say that Trump got the nomination because he's not going to be a vice president. So let's say he gets the nomination. It looks like it's going the Republicans' way. Everybody gets behind him. He picks Cruz, and they go in there as Trump Cruz. Now you have kind of a governor on Cruz, the guy that's there that's so good with the Constitution, a small government guy, all that kind of thing, to kind of temper Trump's actions a little bit, and then Cruz runs and he becomes president. Rick, we've just sealed up 16 years of what would be, number one, I'm sure, economic success, and then a lead into a more conservative government. Now, no one knows what world events will happen. We have a power paradigm right now. The balance of power is shifting rapidly. And again, I'm cursed with knowing history. I know how the power structure in the world was the second before Archduke Ferdinand was, him and his wife, I believe, was assassinated. Okay? The second after that shot, the balance of power in the world changed. So again, I'm worried about these big moving pieces. I don't care about Megyn Kelly's whatever, or Carly Fiorina's face, then she calls herself Secretariat. Anyhow, wonderful horse, not a good look for a woman. I don't care about any of that. The people that don't understand history don't understand that right now we're in a bit of a accelerated kind of even more dangerous repeat of the 1930s. And we might need someone, not a strong man, but somebody that is aggressive enough to stand at the door. And, I wrote an article recently called The Revolution, and we've taken words like tariffs or protectionism or fair trade or things like that. We've turned them into four-letter words. We don't have, we might have free trade, but we don't have fair trade. And this is what the left does. Everything that we think is bad. And other countries do this kind of stuff all the time. I'm not saying those should be permanent policies, but we kind of really have an emergency if you look out past our shores and just think about it for a second. And we basically need to bust a move.
I can't say that I disagree with anything that you just said. It's interesting that you mentioned that this is kind of what seems to be an accelerated parallel to the 1930s, because that thought has occurred to me several times in the past few months, and I think, unfortunately, you may be more right than you know.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that it's odd, because I had the same thought within the last few months myself, because Obama basically it seems like things are kind of reversed this time, though, because it seems like Obama's more trying to play the role of Chamberlain at this point, which is kind of weird.
Our comfort and success as a country, economically, socially, culturally, can be a comfort zone that will let us drop our guard if we're not careful. And right now you have this huge mass migration. This is what my article was about, a call to revolution. If the revolutions aren't fought in the Mideast now, they'll be fought in America and Europe soon. And what I mean by that is we've always had this attitude where we say things like, well, you can't expect an Islamic country to adopt a Jeffersonian style democracy. What's wrong with you? Well, I say shoot, aim high, and maybe you'll hit the center of the target. And if you're going to go in any place and spend more, rivers of American blood and mountains of American treasure, as I say in the article, to free anybody or to help a people say that they want to be free, I say they have to sign on the dotted line. You look at our Bill of Rights, you look at our Constitution, sign the bottom. That's what we're going to shoot for. Okay? If they're not willing, as I said in commoner sense, FedEx them a copy. See what they think. If they're not going to do it, if they're not going to step out of the 7th century into modernity, they're an enemy. Because Islam is not a religion of peace. It's a death cult. Okay? So instead of us walking around going, oh, all those nice Muslims, we want to help them out and everything, this is not going to work out good. They're not a population that assimilates. They're a population that invades and then takes over. And anybody, Angela Merkel or the rest of these morons in Europe, anybody that doesn't understand that is going to be in for a very, very rude, bloody awakening.
All right, I think you are 100% correct. And actually, it's interesting that you took the conversation in this direction, because I was actually going to steer us that way after the break. But at this point, we do need to go ahead and take a commercial break. We'll be right back here in just a couple of minutes with more with Patrick Fornari, author of Commoner Sense, right here. And I am, of course, Rick Robinson, and you are listening to America Off the Rails. We will be right back after we pay a few bills. Don't go away. Still got about half the show left, folks.
Red Nation Rising brings you Town Hall Radio.
From a single tweet to 3 million a month, our community is a force to be reckoned with on social media.
So don't miss our show, Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern on K98 Talk.
Our chat room is our co-host, and you ask the question.
Join us and be heard.
So get ready to sound off on Red Nation Rising Radio. No one else is going to do it for you.
There's a wild, wild whisper blowing in the wind, calling out my name like a long lost friend.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
K98Talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members, of their families or their children, asking them to deploy, patrol, stay on watch, on point, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to bring them all the way home, to keep them secure, to have their backs for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs do whatever it takes to help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently. at no cost for life, so that they might stand at ease. Find out how you can help at findwwp.org.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of liberservative conservatism.
Where no one is safe, and no one is spared, not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right
Ebola
anyway.
radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant. Let's pop out of the segment.
Has to do with
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Calls, we got a pen and telephone to bypass all your laws. Political correctness will replace the Bill of Rights. Support religious freedom, bless you, pray to Jesus Christ. The press is in our pockets.
All right, folks, we're back. We're live. This is America Off the Rails, and again, I am joined by Patrick Fornari, author of Commoner Sense, and I called a bit of an audible on him at the break, but he asked if we could go back so he could tie a couple of things together. He wants to talk to us about his feelings for the debate overall. So, Patrick, I'm going to go ahead and turn things back over to you for a bit.
Okay, thanks, Rick. There was a couple things. I mean, there was a number of things I really didn't like about it. And it's kind of not worth doing the kind of specific analysis that I see on the news because none of it means anything. You can take a guy like Marco Rubio that knows all the big moving parts or the idea that Carly Fiorina has or evidently Trump's lack of interest in the details right now. And all those things are worth talking about. But when Ted Cruz kind of got into it about the appointment of Supreme Court justices and things like that. In my book, Commoner Sense, the things I recommend for the future, the big things, the big changes I want to see, would limit the terms of not only congressmen, senators, and people in the executive branch, but also in the Supreme Court. So instead of having these forever arguments about these lifetime appointments, we should probably have a president that's in for only 6 years that doesn't campaign in the middle of an 8-year term because they never stop campaigning. In that same kind of thought, we should scale back on the terms that the congressmen and senators are allowed to be there, maybe 12 years, 18 years, depending. And the same with the Supreme Court justices. They really should be limited in their time, not lifetime positions. You can see what it's doing. Our two-party system and the way that our founders laid things out, in a funny way, with Trump being in this, or let's just say with the paradigm shifting, that he's putting down a new way to maybe do some of this, because he's not a good debater. He's going to do this through TV and radio if he goes further. Our two-party system, in a funny way, might actually work, because it might be a citizen that does get elected, nominated, or close to getting nominated for the presidency of the United States, more as our founders intended. So a lot of people that really kind of have their underwear all twisted up right now are the establishment people. Lindsey Graham literally said during his debate, "I'm tired of telling people things that I can't do." Well, he should never do that, and he should have never done that. And that's why I say him and his buddy McCain can leave Washington any time. Bobby Jindal's right. If you're not going to fight, everybody criticizes Ted Cruz for not getting it done, but he fights. They were talking about shutting the government down, okay, and how detrimental that is, especially Graham and some other people. No, it's not. Most conservatives don't give a darn. If they shut it down for a few days, they just sleep better at night. That's conservatives' reaction, okay? So all this, we're going to get blamed for it and stuff, it's all nonsense. It's all this kind of rhetoric we've been fed that means nothing. We had Chris Christie standing there, who I don't really trust or believe, standing there saying, "Listen, Donald Trump and Carly, no one wants, you're great people, you did great things, you were successful. No one wants to hear about your work records." What an asinine thing to say. That's exactly why people are watching the debate. They want to know what Carson, Fiorina, and Trump, their history, how they see the present America, and what the future might be, as I did in my book. In my book, I want transformative big ideas that simplify the tax code, that don't let people be in Washington forever, that get rid of lobbyists, all those things. But instead, we have Jake Tapper sitting there going, Mr. Trump said this about you. And they're saying that Trump is thin-skinned or that he acts like a juvenile. I think that maybe Trump has moved on and the media haven't because it's worth ratings. And, Trump discovered a new word for nice, too. He doesn't just apply it to himself anymore. He actually called the other candidates nice. Now, I don't know if that's going to work for him, but I think Trump kind of moved on. He is maturing a little as a politician, and the media hasn't. They want him to stay exactly how he was. So this might not work out for him. But we have some good candidates, but again, in the back of my mind, there's always that thing where I think the GOP can actually blow this election running against a communist in a pantsuit and a socialist that I'm not sure is going to be alive by the time the election happens, and we still might blow it.
So you're not sure that Sanders is going to be alive by election time? Is that due to age, or are you planning on, Is there something you might not want to admit on the air?
I'm not even sure I'll be here, okay? Stranger things have happened. I'm just saying he's an old guy, and they're supposed to be the young hip party, and look at who they're running. They went from running a what they called a rock star in a pop culture sensation in the form of Barack Obama to Hillary and Bernie? Are you kidding me?
Hey, wait, you're missing somebody, and we'll actually be talking about that, not to break in and do a bit of a promo, but I'm actually filling in for JD, who is in California tonight. So Stacy and I will be talking about the debate and the Democratic lineup later, and the fact that apparently Crazy Uncle Joe is still considering. So if you put all of those folks together, but we're supposed to be the old angry white people party. I'm just saying.
Well, exactly. That was my take from the beginning. I thought that, but listen, give the Democrats credit. This is their candidates, and they're rallying around them. Like I've always said, Rick, and as I say in common sense, it doesn't take anything to be a liberal or Democrat. You just sign up for the religion and you say, I believe. Well, the reason the Republican Party has so much inter-party fighting right now, it's very public, by the way, is because we actually do have principles. Okay, we actually do have ideas. We actually do have beliefs in the foundation, the founding of the country, and the documents and people that gave us every second of this American life that we're allowed to lead. Okay, we actually revere that. The Democrats don't. They have these three old white people that, just a few years ago, that was the worst thing you could be in the world, and they've rallied around them. And they get things done, as Jindal said. And we have what? Boehner and McConnell and Graham and all these guys that get absolutely nothing done. The biggest political mistake of the last half century was the Republicans not embracing the 2010 momentum of the Tea Party, because politics is momentum. And now they are facing the worst high-profile presidential candidate of the last 50 years, who is the worst speaker, campaigner, and politician in the world, Hillary Clinton. And we still somehow are not confident that we can win. This is one of the reasons, Rick, that you're seeing this kind of rabid latching on to Donald Trump. They look at him as someone that will be aggressive enough to at least win. And, we have to win. We need a Republican president, a Republican Congress, a Republican House of Representatives, and a Republican Senate. We absolutely need this because, as I was saying before, whether you look out off our shores or within our borders, Rick, we're in real trouble. This is an emergency, okay? This is not playtime. So people don't want Trump because of that same situation I'm saying to look at. I understand them. People that do want him, I understand them. For me, it can't be all about Trump. It has to be about these bigger pieces that I'm always looking at. Not about Carly's face, not about Megyn Kelly's whatever.
Yeah, and again, here's my thing with it. It's one of those things where I, like you, have a lot of history under my belt. I was a nerd in high school. It's probably why I eventually became a talk show host. I had, back when they were still called credits, I don't know what the heck they call them now. I went to my son's freshman orientation a couple of months back, and I think I was more confused than he was. I think they call them units or something now. But anyway, I had 26 social science credits when I graduated high school. And I had about another 12 credit hours through college of social science type related classes, because it's what I've always liked. It's what I've always enjoyed. And I enjoy reading about things that have actually happened almost as much. I mean, I enjoy reading, period. Fictional, all of it. But one of the things I always really have enjoyed is reading about things that have already happened so that I could get an idea of who the people were and what it was that they went through. And one of the things that scares me right now are the parallels that are going on right now in places like Iraq as opposed to Nazi Germany. ISIS is coming to power in a really big way over there now. They are now basically forcing Christians to do basically one of three things. Pay either exorbitant taxes, otherwise known as bribes, to be able to stay in the country still, or they leave, or they convert, or else. And the or else means if you either don't get out, pay them large sums of money, or convert, they're going to kill you and take your family and do with them as they wish. They are also marking the buildings of folks and the homes of folks that they know are Christians, much like Hitler used to do. And it's one of the things that I've brought up on a couple of different shows now, and even in a recent article that I myself wrote, because I've actually started writing a little bit more again. It's kind of disturbing when you start seeing things happening on national TV that you've only read about in one particular book in the last few pages. Just saying.
Well, there was an alliance with what used to be called Persia, of course, in Iran, and that's when they basically Iran. That's like saying Aryan. So they kind of took that moniker on, and now, like with ISIS and everything you're saying, this is a big deal. So the parallels are there, and it's all very scary. So we might not end up with perfect candidates, but we do really need to get a Republican in there, and we do need to beef our military up. And don't think that people that are staunch conservatives, like I said, aren't seeing these 4 or 5 issues in front of them that they know need to be fixed if we're going to have a country. After all, you're seeing the invasion, this so-called immigration into Europe, and you have one man's family telling another man's family in Europe, in a European country, saying, well, I want freedom. Well, what he's really asking for, Rick, if you read my article at MagicCityNews.com, A Call to Revolution is the article, what he's really asking for is for that family's freedom. Now, who fought for that family's freedom? Well, if they're a European country, it could have been the Allies, or more than likely, that freedom for that family in Europe was paid for, again, with rivers of blood and mountains of American blood and mountains of American treasure. And we've carried that on all the way from as far as back as World War I, but in particular World War II, where we basically pay the bill for the defense of a number of countries around the world, including European countries. We pay, I think, about 28% of the NATO bill, things like that, which have allowed their governments to grow their social socialism, their benefits, their welfare states to unprecedented degrees. It's something they couldn't have done if America and NATO weren't providing for their defense. So it's natural for Angela Merkel to say, well, we have a low birth rate in Germany. We'll just open up the borders. We'll bring all these Muslims in and everything will be fine. Well, Holland had a hard time with that. Denmark's had a hard time with that. It is not a culture that assimilates. And they're not going to have to fire a shot to take it over. And when I say things to you like, We should help countries out that do want to adopt a Jeffersonian type of democracy or look at our founding documents, and people say, oh, that's crazy, they'll never do that. Well, Iran was very modern when the Shah was in there. He was our dictator. At least they had a chance of stepping into modernity. The revolution already happened there, Rick. They went the other way. The mullahs took over. So, are people going to tell me when we've seen that kind of revolution and take over, it can't go back the other way? There are no countries that can reject this death cult and turn around and go forward into modernity? I don't believe that. We need to help. We don't always need to sacrifice, but there are probably people that we need to arm. And yes, there are unintended consequences. If you take Assad out, what will happen? Well, I'll tell you what will happen. A group like ISIS will take over, and then we'll have to deal with them. Just like what happened in Egypt, what happened in Libya. That's what happens. And, if we're not going to at least exercise our power and export some of our ideas to this part of the world, then we probably do need to retreat from it to a certain extent. But then I don't want to see pictures on my TV that I'm supposed to feel empathetic about because people are getting slaughtered every day.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my biggest thing with all of it is I think somewhere we lost a step, because we used to be the folks that would step up and say, things like this shouldn't be happening, and now we're just like, hey, it's not our country, who cares?
Well, I don't see Rand Paul's foreign policy being any different than Barack Obama's. I don't see what Ben Carson was talking about, who I love. I've read a couple of his books, just fantastic. I don't see his foreign policy in being much different. Okay, even Trump is only halfway there with that. He talks tough. I don't know if he'd always be willing to put us where we need to be. But, we need to have that big military, and we need to interject, go in, kill people, break things, and leave. No nation building, okay, unless they want that. If they sign at the bottom of that Constitution and Bill of Rights and say, yeah, we're in 110%, then help them out, okay, with weapons so they can fight for themselves. These people that are migrating in the European countries, all these pictures I've seen, these are military-age young men, very few women and children, okay? They should be in their country. These millions should be fighting the 30,000 ISIS guys and driving them out themselves. Everybody says, oh, they can't. ISIS is crazy. They have weapons, and they behead people, and, they kill 6-year-old girls, and yes, they are. They're horrible. Let's arm people that want to go against them. Instead, they're skipping a step, Rick. They're not doing what our founders did. We had founders that fought for the United States of America before it was the United States of America that knew well that they were going to die during the revolution. They knew they weren't going to make it out. And they fought for our freedom anyhow. Okay? And that's what those people need to do in the Mideast. That's why I say a call to revolution. It happens in the Mideast first, or it'll happen in Europe or America. If they don't fight for their own freedom, if they're not willing to put a generation or two into it, with assistance from Western countries, say, they want to step into modernity, fine, we'll help you. With assistance from us, I'm not even saying boots on the ground, but assistance, okay? If they don't fight for it, they won't know the real meaning of freedom. Our founders committed to that type of freedom, and we enjoy it today. But for someone else to just say, hey, I'm here from Syria and Germany, I want your freedom, it's not going to happen, because what happens is that eventually the rights and the freedom of the welcoming host and the immigrant will eventually degrade both parties' freedom, the immigrant as well as the host country. Okay? So what they need to do is get their ass back to the Middle East and fight for their own freedom.
Now, it's interesting that you bring that up, because we're down to the last few minutes, but I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on for a second, because you mentioned something that I've noticed quite a bit in a lot of these pictures. They keep talking about how these folks are refugees, but you mentioned the same thing that I keep noticing in most of the pictures. These are all military-aged men. Very few children, almost no women. So what if they're not coming to the Western countries to flee, but for other reasons?
It's part of the propaganda world that we live in, Rick, that we've been told that any immigrant is as pure as the driven snow. And if you say you want to question that, or if you want to build a wall at the Mexican border, or if you want people that have been deported 5, 6, 7 times to be kept out of America, you're a racist. So instead of buying in to what the Democrats say, whether it's their worldview or our domestic view, we need to start thinking again, and we need to think like Americans. And it isn't the silent majority that's been woken up, Rick. It's the sleeping majority. It's a majority that's been in a coma. And I have a feeling that this base is going to turn into more of a, and I don't even know if Donald Trump will be involved in it 5 months from now. It's kind of not important. We will owe him a debt of gratitude for doing 2 things: bringing out the true colors of many of our so-called establishment leaders and political pundits, people in the media, etc., and for jumping into the water, for getting the wave started. And we have to come back to reality. And I hope that we wake up. We have people that are saying we need to elect a woman president because that would be a good thing for America to do, instead of we need to elect a president that would be good for America. We just did that with Obama. We had a bunch of people that said because he is half African American, he should be elected president. That's a good reason. It will be historic. Rick, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up just south of the south side of Chicago. I saw Obama coming a mile away. I was never on board. I've been around those guys my entire life. I knew he was going to be a disaster, and I had everybody in my family, friends, everybody saying he was going to be a uniter. He was going to bring people together. He was going to be so good for the country. And he has such a nice family. And Rick, I told him it wasn't going to happen. I told him what was going to happen, and I turned out not only to be right, but unfortunately it's probably 2 or 3 or 4 times worse than I even imagined.
All right, Patrick, we are down to about 60 seconds, and by the way, I agree with you. I saw him coming from a mile away, never bought into it. I do admit I tried to do the American thing the night of his first speech, and I said maybe, just maybe, he'll do what he's saying right now. Turns out he didn't mean a word of what he told us. But in these last few seconds, why don't you remind folks where they can find you should they choose to interact with you, and where they can find your book?
My book is on Amazon Books, very easy to find, Commoner Sense, The Working Person's Guide to America, and you can read the many columns that I have at MagicCityNews.com, which is an online newspaper that I submit columns to all the time. You'll find 13 or 14 of them on there. You can follow me at Fornari Sense on Twitter, or follow me on Facebook, and if you're really bored, you can listen to about 30 hours of long radio interviews with wonderful people like you that have allowed me to put my 2 cents into our American conversation and our journey together.
All right, Patrick, well, it's been my pleasure. Unfortunately, we do have another show coming in hot, so I'm going to have to drop you off the line because they're going to be assuming this number for their guest here in just a moment. I want to thank you again for coming on with me, and you are welcome again anytime. And we'll set something up probably after the move, because for the next few weeks, I'm going to kind of wind down the interviews while I start packing.
Okay, good luck with that, Rick. Thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Have a good night, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, ladies and gents, that is going to do it for this particular episode of America Off the Rails. I have got to make room because we have Red Nation Rising Radio coming in right behind me, and at this point, pretty much coming in hot. I may or may not be with you tomorrow night since I'm going to be pulling a doubleheader tonight. I may actually take tomorrow night off and run a replay. But I will be back with you here in about an hour on Game On with JD and Stacy, where I, of course, am not JD, but I do have glitter bombs. Have a great night, folks.
Screw you guys. I'm going home. Later.
Game over, man. It's game over.